They said the Cole family house had been empty for more than 30 years. An old structure standing at the edge of the forest, where the windows faced deep into the woods, and the wind at night seemed to whisper through the walls. After his parents' deaths, the only one left to inherit it was Ethan Cole, a quiet, solitary man in his mid-30s. He worked as a maintenance technician in the city, the kind of person who fixed things for others, but rarely fixed his own life. When the letter about the inheritance came, he decided a few weeks away wouldn't hurt. Maybe he could fix up the place, sell it, and be done. But the first impression hit him harder than he expected. The house wasn't just old, it was stuck in time. Dust blanketed every surface, cobwebs framed the windows, and the air smelled faintly of rot and old paper. Every step on the floorboards groaned like something sighing in pain, and the silence was wrong. No birds outside, no wind in the trees, no distant hum of insects, just an empty, pressing stillness that made him aware of his own breathing. Ethan chose to sleep in his parents' old bedroom on the second floor. He remembered fragments from childhood, a tall wardrobe, lace curtains, a moon-shaped lamp beside the bed. Everything was still there, untouched for decades, like the room had been waiting for him to come back. That first night, he lay awake for a long time. The house creaked with age, but beneath those sounds, there was something else, something faint, like the slow, measured rhythm of breathing behind the walls. He told himself it was the wind. It had to be. The next morning, he explored the house. In the kitchen, the ceiling sagged slightly, and the old refrigerator stood open, empty, its shelves rusted through. The living room was cluttered with furniture covered in white sheets. Underneath one of them, he found an upright piano. A family photo still sat on top of it, his parents smiling stiffly, himself as a small boy standing between them. He couldn't remember when that photo had been taken. Behind the living room, a narrow hallway led to the basement door. The wood was darker there and colder. A padlock hung on the latch, but when Ethan tried it, the lock clicked open with barely any effort, as if someone had unlocked it before he arrived. The basement stairs disappeared into blackness. A draft drifted up from below, cold, damp, almost sweet. He hesitated, then shut the door. Not today. By the second night, strange things began to happen. At around midnight, Ethan awoke to a faint sound downstairs. A soft, uneven tapping, like fingers brushing against a window pane. He lay still, listening. The tapping stopped. Then came another sound, a long, dragging creak from the hallway outside his room. Ethan sat up. The door was closed. He stared at the shadow under it, just a strip of darkness. And then, slowly, something moved past. A shape, human in height. He waited, heart pounding. Silence. Then another soft sound, this time closer, the whisper of fabric brushing wood. Ethan reached for the flashlight on his nightstand, clicked it on, and opened the door. The hallway was empty, but at the far end, near the stairs, he saw something faintly etched into the wall, lines scratched into the paint. When he came closer, he realized they were words. Don't listen. The letters were jagged, carved with something sharp. The paint around them was old, cracked, but not that old. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, he blamed it on exhaustion. Maybe he was hearing things, seeing things that weren't there. The isolation, the silence, it could do that to a person. He tried to focus on repairs instead. Replaced a few broken boards, checked the generator, swept the front porch. At one point, while clearing debris behind the house, he found a small pile of children's toys half buried in the dirt. A wooden horse, a cloth doll with button eyes, and a little metal car rusted nearly through. None of them looked familiar. He tossed them aside and went back to work. But when he came back hours later, the doll was sitting upright on the porch railing, facing the door. He froze. The wind picked up through the trees, carrying a hollow whistling sound, almost like a voice trying to form words. That night, he double-checked every lock, every window, every door. Then he sat by the window in his parents' room and stared out into the darkness. The forest loomed close, its trees black and motionless. Somewhere out there, a single light flickered, like a lantern, far between the trees. He watched it for a long time, until it went out. The following days blurred together. Ethan started hearing things more often, faint voices when he was alone. Sometimes they called his name, soft, stretched, as if underwater. Other times it was just whispers he couldn't quite make out. He tried recording them once, setting his phone on the nightstand overnight. When he played it back in the morning, most of it was static. But near the end, around 3:14 a.m., a single whisper came through clearly. It said, "Downstairs." Ethan dropped the phone. That evening, after hours of trying to convince himself he imagined it, he finally gave in. He took a flashlight and went downstairs. The air grew colder the lower he went. When he reached the basement door, it was already open. He shone the light down the steps. The beam barely reached the bottom. The basement floor was concrete, damp, scattered with old furniture and broken tools. He took one cautious step, then another. The smell hit him, metallic, sharp. Something glinted on the floor. He crouched and picked it up. It was a silver locket, small and old, the kind that opens like a book. Inside was a black and white photograph. A young woman with hollow eyes, her face half burned away. As he stared at it, a voice whispered behind him, "She never left." He spun around. The light cut through dust and emptiness. No one there. But in that instant, he was sure he'd felt breath on the back of his neck. He ran up the stairs and slammed the door shut. After that, the house changed. He started waking up in different rooms with no memory of walking there. Sometimes, Objects moved overnight. Chairs turned toward the walls. Mirrors covered with sheets. Doors left open that he swore he had locked. Once he woke to find words written on the inside of the window pane, traced in fog. He listens. Ethan rubbed the glass clean, heart hammering, and for a moment he saw his reflection, except it wasn't his. The face was older, thinner, the same eyes, but wrong. That night, he dreamed of his father. He was standing in the basement, whispering something Ethan couldn't hear. Then he lifted his hand, and blood began to pour down his arm, splattering onto the concrete. Ethan woke to find dirt under his fingernails and the faint scent of rust in the air. He tried to leave the next morning, packed a bag, started his car, but the engine wouldn't turn over. The battery was dead, though it had worked fine the day before. He pulled out his phone. No signal. He was tracked. By the third week, Ethan looked like a different man, unshaven, exhausted, eyes red-shot. He stopped trying to sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw shadows moving at the edge of his vision, faces pressed against the darkness. One night, while sitting in the living room, he heard faint music, a piano. The sound came upstairs. He froze. The piano hadn't worked in years. Slowly, he climbed the steps. The melody grew clearer, soft, deliberate notes echoing through the hall. It was the same lullaby his mother used to play when he was a child. When he reached the top, the music stopped. The piano lid was closed. Dust still covered the keys, but a fresh handprint marked the surface, small, delicate, like a woman's. Behind him, something whispered his name. He turned. At the far end of the hallway stood a woman, pale, thin, dressed in a faded nightgown, her head tilted slightly, her eyes dark pits. "Ethan," she said softly, "why did you come back?" He couldn't speak, couldn't move. Then she smiled, slow, unnatural, stretching too wide, and vanished. After that, Ethan stopped distinguishing between dreams and waking hours. The house seemed alive now, breathing, pulsing. The walls shifted when he wasn't looking. Whispers followed him from room to room, murmuring secrets he couldn't understand. Sometimes they spoke in his parents' voices, sometimes in his own. He began to believe the house wasn't haunted by something, it was the something. A presence that absorbed every voice, every emotion, every death that had ever occurred within it. It listened, it remembered, and now it was listening to him. The final night came like any other, with the wind howling and the lights flickering. Ethan sat in his parents' room, staring at the moon-shaped lamp that no longer worked. He whispered to himself, "I'm leaving tomorrow." But even as he said it, he knew he wouldn't. From the hallway came a faint thud, then another. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, climbing the stairs. He grabbed the flashlight, but it flickered, then died. The steps stopped just outside his door. Silence. Then a knock. 3 times. Ethan didn't answer. The door creaked open on its own. A figure stepped inside, a silhouette darker than the surrounding dark. It stood there, head tilted, as if studying him, and then, in the voice that was his own, it whispered, "You shouldn't have listened." In the morning, the house stood quiet again, empty. The bed unmade, the flashlight on the floor. They found Ethan's car still parked in the driveway weeks later, covered in leaves. No sign of him inside the house. But sometimes, when the wind passes through the trees, the neighbors swear they can hear a voice, low and tired, carried on the air. It sounds like a man calling from inside the house. "Please stop listening."